Welcome to the box office between the All Blacks and Ireland. The bitter feud is about to be reignited in Dublin.
McKenzie, that's an outstanding kick.
As they did in Paris last October, New Zealand have seen off the Irish.
It's a magnificent 7 for Argentina. Italy succumbed to a significant record defeat against Argentina.
Over the top, what a ball from Suaalii to Wright. No, he didn't. Oh my goodness me. Oh, it's unbelievable. It's one of the greatest moments in Wallabies history, and it belongs to Jorgensen. They have stunned England.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening, welcome into the breakdown. Tonight we start off with an apology to our friends in the north because the Southern Hemisphere had a day out, or a weekend out anyway. A star is born for Australia and the Wallabies, a scarcely believable debut from a 21-year-old who's been playing rugby league for the last 3 years. And Rieko Ioane, well, he adds more fuel to the fire, and I tell you what, I am absolutely here for it. Jeff Wilson is back in the hot seat, great to have you with us. Stephen Bates as well, and Mills Muliaina, you're back with a new hip. How do you feel?
I feel great. I mean, you know,
Old man.
hey, I was almost tempted to jump up and down and dance around after that victory against the Irish, but I've got to take it easy. And I have got a new hip, and it's feeling pretty good actually.
Oh, that's good. Is there anything more satisfying than beating Ireland right now? With everything that's happened off the field, you look at Johnny Sexton, you look at Rieko Ioane, put it in the book, Mills. Put it in the book.
Don't you love that? I mean, that just adds to it, doesn't it? I mean, there's obviously another stage to that post this result. Great result, no doubt. There's a lot of anticipation, Jeff, and a lot of spice behind it off the field, more so than anything else. But also, and I think if you look at it from an All Blacks point of view, this is exactly where they kind of want to be. Well, it's not quite the game they would have wanted to play, but the result in itself, that's satisfying.
Great result. It didn't live up to expectations. It didn't. The first 40 minutes was dire. And there's a whole combination of things, whether it be scrum resets or whether it be, the mistakes that both teams were making, the fact there were so many penalties, we're kicking threes. Obviously, the weather condition in some ways contributed to that. But ultimately, you talk about adding to the fire, because Ireland didn't show up. They didn't show up for this test match.
Is it satisfying?
Nowhere near as satisfying as it's been, because they were nowhere near their best. And it was great for the All Blacks, Batesy, and satisfying because I think it was our best performance because we took them out of the game. Yeah. But Ireland weren't there. They They did not come and play anything like the #1 team in the world.
I 100% agree. That was one of the worst Irish performances I've seen in a while. But on the other side of things, was it because we rattled them? Was it because you can only play as well as the other team allows you, like when South Africa suffocates us from time to time? So from our point of view, and I agree with you, it wasn't a great spectacle. It was a grind, but wasn't it good to see us win in the grind?
Yeah, but if you look at their anthem, for example, when you see them singing... No, I didn't see the passion I saw last year in a Rugby World Cup where you start seeing how desperate they were. You heard them talking during the week about, oh no, we're not thinking about, it's not a revenge game. Their coaches talking about, their captains talking about not being a revenge game. I'm sorry. If you're playing the All Blacks and it's a game you want to win, you tap into everything you need to possibly win. You have to execute and you have to have motivation. It's like they took some of the motivation out. Oh, we'll just go out and execute. You took that away. They had nothing in that game, bar the fact they got a bit of luck just after half-time to get some field position, and we were down to 14 men. They didn't threaten us pretty much for most of that game.
Yeah, the Wallabies used every little bit of motivation, because it wasn't long ago that the English halfback was saying, don't even bother touring there with the Lions. So they'd ruled them out a year in advance. Well, that has come back to bite them in the bum. It is time now to brag, Mills, because the Southern Hemisphere triumphed over the Six Nation teams. When you look, massive victory for the All Blacks over Ireland. Australia over England at Twickenham, humongous considering where they have been. And Argentina smoke Italy. One more to come. South Africa against Scotland tomorrow. We don't want to automatically say that that's a South Africa victory, but it could be 4-0 to the Rugby Championship.
It's pretty good bragging rights, isn't it? I mean, if you sort of looked 3 or 4 months ago, you'd think all the momentum's with the North this last weekend in terms of a Southern Hemisphere point of view, outstanding, particularly for the Australians. It wasn't a game, man, that was a fantastic game. I mean, there wasn't a game where they sort of went in there and magically sort of won by, with a few sort of instances. That right down to the very last play, when they got that ball back, even the English came in. The English are in a bit of a hole right now, right, for me, because I think it almost have lost these real tight games, that it almost becomes a habit to lose these tight games. They've lost 2 to us or 3 to us, and now this is the 4th one. I think there's quality there, but this game here would have hurt them the most.
And they've been run down, as you said, they've been run down twice in the last 2 weeks, haven't they? But just on the game as a spectacle, or 2 things, let's not get too carried away about potentially winning 4, because there's another round next week. So, but in saying that, a game as a spectacle, how good was it? That last 5 minutes, Aussie scored, Callaway scored. I thought, oh, this is awesome, great. I'm not gonna lie, I was 100% I was going for Australia. And then
so you should be, Bakes.
And Toje scored, and then I sulked a little bit, and I didn't have to sulk for too long. And then they were in the corner again. So it was
exactly what you want from a game of rugby.
Oh, how good. Like, I thought the game was over when England scored. I thought,
I was filthy.
Yeah,
I was filthy. I was dark on the couch, you know. I was literally spitting tacks because I want Australia to be stronger. I want them to be better. Saw some really nice things from them, but you talk about this Northern-Southern Hemisphere thing. I think it's a great contest. The fact we're starting to talk about this Nations Cup we're going into in a couple of years, right? So all of a sudden, these 2 hemispheres are going to compete, and I think it's a good thing for the game. Like you say, there's a few more weeks to go on the end of year tour. Like the autumn series has just started.
To brag, I'm sure.
Exactly, and if they were on top, guess what? They'd be talking about it as well. And I think it's only fair. So I think in terms of, look, we know what's coming up though. It's not going to be easy for these Southern Hemisphere teams, but if you're going to start and make a statement, best way to do it was this weekend.
And we're going to talk about France a little bit later on in the programme, and Antoine Dupont. Boy, that team was very, very good this morning. I tell you who else is at the top of his game, and that is Damian McKenzie. Mills, did he have his best game at 10 for the All Blacks?
I think steering the ship and directionally and under pressure to nail those kicks that he needed to nail. This was a big game for Damian, given sort of the hype that was kind of around it. I thought he did. I thought he got the balance right, the kicking game, but also guys around him, the organisation. I mean, this here, mate, he's seen an opportunity, right? He's still got to execute. You know, he didn't quite get it right, but he was so cool under pressure, and that's what you needed when you're spoken about it, Batesy. You need to grind out a win. We've never sort of grinded out wins before like that. I like this about this team, that we've had to go through a lot of adversity to get to this point and still win. So
man of the match performance from Damian McKenzie. What do you do this week when Beauden Barrett's back?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, I like where Damian's at. We've got 2 quality 10s. There's no doubt. I think I'd like to see Damian back out there. I think you do, give him a bit more, another opportunity to be able to go out there and play with his team. But if you had Beauden go out there, you wouldn't be losing.
But you'd start Damian at 10.
So we've heard it quite a lot in the past in the All Blacks about you don't lose your spot through injury. I'll be interested to see if there's a change of philosophy here. In particular, they're always talking about, Batesy, about selecting a team to play the next game, the next test. Who's the best first 5 to beat France? I think they'd started to go down the path of Beauden Barrett. If Beauden Barrett had been fit, I think he would have started this game at 10. I've got a sense he's going to go back there, and Damian will make his impact off the bench. And to me, it's just as impactful, because we just saw in this Test match. We won in the last 20 minutes. That's when we won this Test match. Damian McKenzie can do that for me off the bench. Beauden Barrett can drive the ship well and truly for the first 50, 60 minutes.
I agree. I think they'll go back to Beauden. I do. I think with his control and stuff. But also, you talk about the last 20 minutes. I know we're going to talk about the French later on. Did you see how open that game was that they played today? So there's going to be some tired bodies. You bring Damian on with 20 minutes. It's going to be, we talked about a grind, Millsy, against the Irish. I hope I'm wrong. This ain't going to be a grind against the French. This is going to be an open game. Did you see the way they played this morning? It ain't going to be a grind. Don't quote me on that.
I'll quote you next Sunday morning at 9 a.m. So sounds like it. These guys have made the decision that Damian McKenzie will make an impact from the bench next week. Sounds like Bowden Barrett and Cody Taylor will both be available. They've both passed all of their HIA protocol tests so far, which is fantastic news for them. They just have to get through the next few days as well. Someone who may not be so lucky, Sam Cane. Can we see the picture of Sam Cane? He has 8 stitches in his forehead. Like, this is brutal, Batesy. You're the only forward on the panel, so you tell us about this. How deep is this cut? No one saw what happened.
Yeah,
all we saw was this.
Yeah, I'll be straight with you. I saw this for the first time about 10 minutes ago. It's
Did you gag?
It's not pretty, is it? It's on TV for a while now, but yeah.
Sorry, that should have come with a warning.
Yeah, it's not pretty, but hey, at the end of the day, would you rather have a scar or a broken neck? He's had both. He'll come back from this as well.
Is that something that you just strap up and he goes again? He's also under HIA protocols, is the other thing about Sam.
I can't comment on the HIA protocols, but on that there, yeah, he'll play with that. 100% he will. Put some tape around it, Vaseline on it. They'll
Oh, Vest.
Yeah.
JK talked about that.
There's no way these guys play with 8 stitches in their hair.
First and foremost, that wouldn't have happened to me. There's no way that I get even near it. But I think the reality is, if he's not available to play, that's a bigger, wider conversation. Because as far as I'm aware, Dalton Papali'i's not even in the Northern Hemisphere. I think he's still here in Auckland. Yeah. So all of a sudden, our next open side flanker option is clearly Ardie Savea. We'd all probably agree on that. And then it's Peter Lakai. There's no one else. No Luke Jacobson, he's not there. So realistically, our cover at 7 all of a sudden gets pretty thin. And I don't think we can underestimate the impact that Sam Cane has had on this group and how important he's been. So I think, in terms of what we need from Sam Cane and we've had from Sam Cane, you can't fill that hole and you'll be relying on someone to make an impact from the bench who's not got clearly that sort of experience.
Balance is different, isn't it? So if you say we go Ardie at 7 and Ardie's doing a lot of grind, more than he has probably previously, and Wallace has been freed up a little bit, but Samipeni Finau, then the balance is very different, of that loose forward trio, because you don't see a lot of Sam Cane, but what you do, you hear a lot of Sam Cane with shoulders and grunt, and that's not the kind of game that Ardie plays. It's good a player, don't get me wrong, but just different.
Yeah.
I look at this performance across the board, and we got so much impact. And to me, I was through three things I wrote down. We controlled the air, right? So we controlled the air, probably for the first time in a real high-intensity situation where there are some plays around this, Batesy, which could be a bit confusing in terms of escort runners, but in the end, we controlled it. We competed for it. They made a lot of errors. We controlled that. So for me, that went a long way to winning this game. In terms of playing the right parts of the field, really, really important. And discipline. We only conceded 5 penalties in the game. We got a yellow card. So we got on top of an issue in regards to that. So for me, I looked at our game and it made it easier for us. It was the fact that we didn't hurt ourselves. Yep. We didn't make errors. Yep. And we forced the opposition to give us territory. And to me, that's probably, when you're controlling a test match, that's the best way to do it.
But I also think you talk about controlling the air. We controlled the air off our own kick-off receipts after we just scored.
Geordie?
Yeah, exactly, and that played a big part in us being able to get out of our own half and then set ourselves up to then win another big moment with the box kick. I think, if you look back at the South African tests and some of the tests we've had during the year, we've struggled to get out of our own half, and by struggling I mean like not collecting those balls off the kick-off and then putting ourselves under pressure again to have to defend and then concede points. I think that was a big part of our game that we won against the Irish without even the Irish sort of realising. It's that little bit of momentum and then collecting points off the back end of that and then restarting and regrouping again. I think that played a big part in terms of the victory.
And just on that, Millsy, we won a lot of those little 50-50s that could have gone either way. But to loop back to your original point around we won the year, which is a strength of Ireland's, 100%, that's D-Mac. You know what I mean? A lot of the kicking was done from him. So you talk around his performance, so you talked up first, that's him. And I know I've said it, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but that's a performance where Curse You asked is that's his best performance. I don't know if it's his best performance, it's not the flashiness we used to see, but it's a performance that he done which is not pretty. Yeah. You know what I mean? And isn't that a sign of a good footballer? Mm. We know he's got the flashy stuff, but it wasn't a pretty performance, but it was a good performance, don't get me wrong.
You mentioned the escorts. What was going on there with the escorts law that we were seeing people penalised for?
Well, the big thing was there was about 4 penalties that came from it in one game and none from any other game. And that was the confusing part. Yeah, OK, you can understand what they're trying. As a player, you know when guys are you're taking a line, right? But to the average person in the crowd, what was that sort of call for? The referees have obviously stamping their mark on it. Is it another case of, well, even that? I mean, what does Tupoivai do? You know, if he stands there, is that then deemed an escort? I mean, is it something they just hammer down for this week and then we're not going to see any of it for the rest of the Six Nations, the autumn series?
It wasn't an issue in any other games, and you can't tell me there wasn't kicking in the other games. So I think for Nick Berry, it's about getting an understanding about and getting a feeling for, and that's the hard part. You put something out there, and then all of a sudden one referee interprets one way, and next week another referee interprets another, and then you're talking about a highly contestable area where one mistake can result in points.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be hard for the players. We sort of saw a scattergun in the second half, whereas all of a sudden he's saying clear out. Guys are just running in all sorts of directions going, where's the chasing coming from? You know, so I think we've just got to be really wary of, you introduce something and then you go straight to the extreme. And it was certainly the extreme. Very much the other way, where the intent in this game was to speed up the game at the end of the autumn series. I've never... The standing around, it was like we were at a World Cup game where you got 27 minutes of running play. There was delays at scrum time, resets, there was a lot of this. There was water boys everywhere. For me, this wasn't an example of what World Rugby were trying to achieve. Disappointing night at the office.
You talk about World Rugby, and we're sitting in the green room yesterday debating exactly what's going on. Surely we get a couple of clips and they put it out there, because that is one thing about rugby, is people say there's lots of rules, it's quite confusing. So let's put it out there and say this is why this is a penalty. This one shouldn't have been a penalty, so it's clear for everyone. So we know what it is. Because at the moment it sits in a realm of, well, what is a penalty? What is not a penalty?
What is 30 seconds? What is a scrum? I mean, there's a few scrums on it, but we sat there and it was longer than 30 seconds. I mean, they were trying to speed things up, and then you sort of prioritise what happens with the escorting. I mean, what are we going to get, you know?
I laugh, but I'm laughing because, Bates, you don't know how many times we've said on the show and said to ourselves, well, hopefully World Rugby will put out something explaining to us. I guarantee you there'll be nothing in the next 5 or 6 days.
But we have to engage,
nothing at all.
We have to engage people, you know what I mean?
No, you're not
if
wrong.
you don't engage people,
but they're not
we
gonna.
lose the average fan.
They're not going
Because,
to.
I don't know, what's that one for? I don't know. Isn't Tonga playing Australia? Oh, OK, I'll watch that, you know?
He doesn't know. he's not just your average fan, he doesn't know. We know.
I know, because Izzy told me yesterday.
Basically, let's get some more credit to our forwards, because you mentioned the fact they were very good yesterday. Can we have a moment for an Asafo more appreciation?
Yeah.
First of all, for this man who played 79 minutes.
Yeah, and 75 the week before. So I thought he was... we'll talk about him first. I thought he was fantastic. We see some footage. First, you know, we talked about his line-out throw. His line-out throw was outstanding. He got one wrong all night. But not only that, well, you can see here, the pictures speak for himself. His defensive work, his carries work. So, mate, it's and let's hope, we talked about it a little bit, but let's hope it's a real coming of age for him, because he was fantastic.
And all of a sudden, last week everyone was concerned, no Cody Taylor, oh no. No one
not
has
everyone.
that.
I wasn't concerned.
You weren't.
I weren't concerned.
That's fair enough.
I wasn't concerned, because I think when you're giving a guy an opportunity, Kirsty, I think he's proven it. You know, he's done it. Yes, it's so easy to focus on line-out throwing, but there's so many moving parts, Bates. You talk about all those things, but to do it back-to-back, significant minutes, for us to now have a guy who can well and truly not just back up Cody Taylor, but when he's required to start and play, it's outstanding. We've always been in a position, we've been very, very fortunate for a long time to have 2 world-class hookers. And we've seen exactly how valuable those have been. And times 3. You know, Coles, he's sort of had to wait. He's been in and out in terms of injury, but we've known what he's brought behind guys. I think it's critical. Where's our depth then? Are we starting to talk depth? Because we finally...
Who's sitting in New Zealand, don't forget about him.
Exactly. We finally have, in a couple of test matches, come over the top of a couple of teams. That, to me, is the sign of we're learning, or are we getting our selections right?
No, we're getting our selections right, but we're also exposing some of our younger guys to more games, and some of that has come through injury. When you look at the prop situation, right? Yeah, we're limited in terms of some of the props, but we've now built real depth in that. Ethan de Groot can't even get a start right now. Timothy Williams has stepped up to the level. You look at the locking, Sam Derry's come on, Tupoivai. You come down to the Wallace Atitis, even Olmore. I mean, Olmore, but George Bow, they're starting to expose them to this higher level stuff. Cortez Ratama. You know, where were these guys before? And that's what gives you the confidence to go, hey, well, okay, some of it has been, and I love the fact they've gone through the adversity. They haven't played their best rugby. You can clearly see they haven't quite got the tactical stuff that they've been wanting to implement. But I like where they are. I like the fact we're building, and there's still guys in the All Black 15 that you'd say, our depth is looking pretty strong. And you come all the way right through to the backs, and you've got some depth.
Let's talk about depth at lock, because at the start of the year, that was one position that people were concerned about because we'd lost two of the greatest of all time in Sam Whitelock and Brodie Retallick. Now, you're probably biased because you coach him at Super Rugby level, but is Patrick Tuipulotu our best lock right now?
He's our best ball-carrying lock. 100% he is, and you saw that against England. And what we don't have, I don't reckon, in our forward pack at the moment is we don't have, and Almore is a little bit different, is we don't have a lot of people that says in the teeth of the defence, give me the ball, run, catch, run, I'll get over the gain line. And Paddy is someone that'll do that. Proficient, really good line-out operator, 100% does good stuff, but I think there's number one asset for the All Blacks at the moment is the ability to carry the ball over the gain line and get them going forward.
So do you continue starting Tupou Vaa'i and Scott Barrett, or do you think about putting Paddy in to start rather than the impact in the last 20, 30 minutes?
I think it's worked really, really well. And Jeff just said we've come over the top of people in the teams in the last 2 weeks. And yes, he played his role yesterday, 100%. Against Ireland, he played his role, but Paddy against England, he was world class. He was top notch. So it's not broken, you know, and just leave it as it is.
I would probably say, if for one thing, if Sam Derry wasn't injured, you could probably loosen up a bit and go, perhaps we move the skipper into that locking into the blindside position. They have something coming off the bench, and Sam Derry. I don't think they have that luxury now. I think you're right. I think you keep that. What's evident right now is we're looking pretty solid now. We're starting to build a really nice, spine of the in that sort of head of the pack, but also the loosies are starting to. I mean, it's something Penny Finau as well to go out there, and I know you like him, but I think he's starting to establish himself as get out there and just defend like Sam Cane would, and that's all you need to worry about, and that's what gives me confidence moving forward for this All Black side. The next couple of years, I think we're really starting to build some depth.
I'll never call it a bomb squad because that's for another team, but what it is, it's experienced and it's big. Ofa Tuangafasi, Pasilio Tosi, Patrick Tuipulotu, Sammy Penny-Finau, size matters. So all of a sudden, the last 2 weeks, our scrum has also become a weapon in the last 20 minutes, where the opposition, who might not have the depth of experience. Now, Tard Furlong didn't play in this game, and he was a big loss for Ireland. He has been instrumental in their success. Really dynamic player, but that doesn't make excuses for their other guys who have had to step up. So for us, I'm just really happy for Paddy because right now he's getting to get some game time. He's had so many challenges over his rugby career. We're seeing what he's capable of, and he's a bit like Offa in some ways. I'd actually like us to protect him a little bit, is the fact that he's doing a really good job for us now. We don't need to play him in some of the other games. Just make sure, because I know that's what other teams are doing around the world, going, you know what, can we get these two guys to 2027? Because that's what I'm starting to follow. Geez, I'm falling into JK's tricks. I'm not counting down the days, but I'm starting to look into the future and go, where are we tracking? I really like what's happened in the last 2 weeks. Yeah. I wanted to be convinced a bit more. I'm convinced a little bit more now. One more to go with France, and I'll start feeling really good about things.
I've given further than that. I think you've got someone like a Fabian Holland coming through as well.
Does he get called up for Sam Derry? Sam Derry, by the way, is ruled out. He's coming back to New Zealand with a knee injury, so someone from the All Blacks 15 is coming in.
He's already in there. I haven't seen the All Black 15 team, but he's already in the environment. So he's on the bench for the All Black 15, but man, he's got size. He's a similar kind of player to, he loves getting amongst the physical stuff. So I'd go a step further than what you're saying, Jeff. I think, we're starting to establish some young guys coming through that have taken over the fact that our worries, the locking, the props, right through to even our 10s and stuff. I think we're in good nick.
You've got Josh Lord in there as well.
Yes.
So, and then you talked about Millsy, you talked about the depth that's coming through, and the reason why that's coming through is a little bit because of injury. We've talked about Sam Cane. Do we put Sammy Penny-Finau out there against France in a cauldron, Is that the way to develop depth, or is this weekend all about we must win? There's two ways to look at anything, what they're trying to do.
I think if you're the coaches, you want to win. I think they've purely gone over to the end of the year tour and say, we've got to win. And they've done the two big ones right now. The last one's the French game. And you go there and win. I think, if Sam Cane's available, we would all agree, right? We stick with him. Yeah,
I said this a couple of weeks ago. I thought the French game would be, because they played today. They played against Japan. France is going to be our biggest challenge this end of the year tour. And they look stacked, and they will be up for it. They will be ready.
Well, look, enough of us bleeding on about the South. Let's get some reaction from the North, from Ian Sheehan, who is from the Off the Ball podcast in Ireland.
We're writing about the fact that the All Blacks came to town and snapped this 19-game winning streak in Dublin. To be fair, the winning streak in Dublin thing was not necessarily something that a whole pile of people were overly aware of or keeping track of, given it has traversed over multiple different years. So I think in a way, maybe we were trying to create reasons to add importance to Friday night, other than, the revenge factor for last year. But really and truly, if you dig deep into an Irish soul, there is a darkness in there that will never be cured unless it's a World Cup victory in a quarter-final against New Zealand. Even if Ireland had won last night, it wouldn't have been revenge. It still would have been a matter of fact that New Zealand won the one that mattered last year. So, to be honest with you, the last 10 minutes, it never really felt like Ireland were going to win the game. So it was that Will Jordan try. After that moment, it kind of felt like game over, which is a worrying sign if you're reading a lot into Ireland's attack, because creating try-scoring opportunities has not been a problem for this team for a number of years. But New Zealand really shut them down, won the breakdown comfortably, and as a result of that, Ireland just couldn't get any territory whatsoever. The main thing to take from the game is that New Zealand were the better team on the night. Sure, there might have been one or two refereeing decisions that Ireland would have wanted to have gone their way, which maybe went against them, but New Zealand's certainly the better team without being amazing themselves.
Very interesting thoughts from the North, Jeff.
Well, to say that they weren't acknowledging, once again, what happened last year, but also around the fact that he never felt that they were going to win the game with 10 to go. Now that is not something we've heard from them for a long time. The fact, because they have come over top of teams, they've been able to finish. It was only 10 points with 12 minutes to go.
James Lowe celebrated like they just won the World Cup quarter-final with that 50-22.
Yeah, exactly, because he felt right. There was a sense that they'd scored there. There was an opportunity. So for me, that's not good for them either. And if you start living 4 years to 4 years, it's difficult. It's challenging. It's not easy if you're going to just continually focus on one game. You've got to build momentum. You've got to build things. And they built to the last Rugby World Cup. They've got to start building again.
Do you think they've missed a golden opportunity? Last year's Rugby World Cup was their time, Mills. Do they have the depth? Will they ever be the same or better than they were over the last 4-year period?
Now was the time to really, after the South African tour when they won that last game, I understand that they've come into it and the expectation of, hey, they haven't played as much, but you're the number one team in the world. You've got to...
Not anymore. Third, aren't they,
But
Jeff?
that's the expectation that comes with being number one. If you're expected to win, you go out there and perform the way that you should win, regardless of whether you've come in and been with. We've had that for how long? And that's the difference, right? We're expected to win every single time. When you're world number one, nothing changes. And so to say that no one really looks at the 19-game winning streak, whatever.
We all know how long Eden Park
the team might not, and you don't as a team, but that gives you confidence as a fan and also as a team that that's a cauldron. You don't come to our home ground and expect to win. You're going to have to fight for every last bit, and they didn't display that.
And basically, the All Blacks don't want to be that team that loses at Eden Park. They don't want to be that next team, right? This is a real thing. They've got Argentina, Fiji, and Australia the next 3 weeks. That's who they have.
I think they can get some momentum, and that would be really interesting of the team they select to play in those 3 games, I think. But, you never know what can happen. But I think there is still momentum there for them if they can. But the depth, it's hard to comment on the depth. I'm unsure of where they lie. But I do agree that the last 4 years, it'll be hard to beat the last 4 years because they were pretty good.
They were unbelievable, weren't they? And they had a chance to make it to the semi-final for the first time ever. But look, I'll stop going on about it because I know our Irish friends will be watching. Stay with us here on The Breakdown. We talk about the magical Anton Dupont. How do you stop this man, and who will come up against him for the All Blacks at 9? Pokemon and all, welcome back to The Breakdown. You may have heard of the Fox Tracker in golf. Well, we're about to do the All Blacks Tracker for 2024. Where are they at? Are you happy with where they're at after 12 games so far this season? 2 losses to South Africa and 1 to Argentina. Aside from that, they have won them all, including the last 2 weeks against England and Ireland. This was supposed to be a really, really difficult end of year tour. They've made it look somewhat easy, haven't they, Batesy?
I don't know if England was easy. I don't know if yesterday was easy. It was comfortable, I'd say, yesterday. But to answer your question, you're happy with where they're at. Like, I tell you what, I'm a lot happier after the last two because they've won them in really tough test matches, 100%. So, like, and you've got to be positive. You've got to live in a positive motion. And let's hope that they still haven't played their best rugby. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair point. They haven't played their best rugby, but they're still winning. So what would you rather have? A team that hasn't played their best rugby and winning, or a team that is absolutely awesome and losing? I think you'd rather take the first one.
I always thought, Mills, that Scott Robertson was inheriting a pretty good side, like a team that was well established from the last year's Rugby World Cup, but missing some really key pieces. And we've talked a bit about those, the likes of an Aaron Smith and a Richie Mwanga move on as well. So you had to try and replace them, but you had to come with your own style. And there was no doubt it got off to a rocky start. Losing to Argentina when we were up by 12 points in Wellington at Sky Stadium, you started going, where are the cracks? Got close to South Africa a couple of times, but it seems as though we've started to maybe get a sense of who we are and how we want to play, and players maybe executing a little bit better, looking at the challenges we've got coming up over the last couple of weeks. But you picked what? You picked 9 or 10, maybe 9 wins, and we're at 9 already, right? So there's a couple of weeks to go. Are they overachieving?
You undersold the All Blacks in 2024, Mills.
Yeah, I did, and then I got to just before the tour and I said, I think we can win the big three. I thought this is probably the most best prepared All Black touring side ever. Best because of those situations that they've been under. It could have been easy for Razor to come in, and I think that's a really good part of it. You know, the English first test, then everyone is expecting him to push on and become this, you know, like what he did with the Crusaders. That didn't happen in the second one. We lost against Argentina. I think, and then they've had to pivot. Lost the coach in the middle of that as well. But they've had to pivot. Okay, let's try and establish what our playing style is. And your point today, I think that's spot on. When you look at a guy like Damien McKenzie, who goes and plays the best team in the world, number 1 team in the world, and he's not playing the Damien McKenzie style, and he still comes away not having played that style and the man of the match. That's what you're building, and this is what I like about this team. Now they go into this three really good games in a row. You're probably similar side to try and establish those wins. I think you come away, and I'm happy with 9 now, but I think now this is going to boost them now to another level. Short week last week, now they've got a longer week. They prepare. This is the big one for them.
Jeff, you said a few weeks ago before this end of year tour started, you always thought that France was going to be the hardest test out of the 3. We're here now. We have got a glimpse into them this morning, and we've seen he is the world's best player right now, isn't he? Antoine Dupont. Do you still stand by what you said, that they will test us more than England and Ireland have?
Yeah, because they've played this game, and Ireland hadn't played a game, so they didn't give themselves a chance to at least get some things going, Batesy. For me, France got pretty much anything they wanted going in this game, and they buttoned off a bit in the second half after making some substitutions.
This guy.
But Antoine Dupont is, we talked about it, he's quite possibly the best player in the world, you know, and, you know, last year, you know, severely impacted their World Cup when he wasn't available through injury and then tried to play through injury. But what I saw today is what I saw last year and what the All Blacks have seen in recent times. France are a really good side, Batesy.
Yeah, and it's that last try that they score. It's that power game. I don't know if that's the right word they're looking for, but when their forwards just go to work and there's not a lot of structure to what they do. They just pick here, they go there, they'll one-off run there, and then you put on the back of that, you put Dupont on the back of that, who is holding the defensive line up, and then picking his option, you know? And it's easy for a defensive side to say, oh, if Dupont runs, let's go and snot him because he's a halfback. He's pretty strong. So he'll bump you off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like he's not a threat with ball in hand as well. But that just the way that the French forwards just roll their sleeves up. And you talked about big men coming off the bench. This French pack, they are big human beings, man. And when they get rolling and Dupont gets scooting around corners and picking his players, I said it's not going to be a grind, so it's not going to be.
It's going to be
but there's going to be some context.
It's going to be flamboyant. There's going to be context galore. What about at halfback? Who comes up against Antoine Dupont for the All Blacks? Do they stick with Cortez Ratima?
I think our halfbacks are Cortez and also Cam Royard.
Who starts?
If I was to look at the French team after today, I'd try to take them on from a structural point of view. I try and slow the game down. It's not in our nature. I try and slow it down and really try and pick off your set piece. And so if you're looking at that sort of style, then you'd think Cortez would get another go. He didn't get a free ride. And the good thing about not having a free ride and what Cam Roigard did is he opened things up a little bit. We know what Cortez can do, and if they tidy up that breakdown and deliver the ball, to him on a plate as they should expect, freeing him up a bit more would be a bit better. To answer your question, I'd probably stick with Cortez, but Cam is he's
pushing
good,
him.
Man.
He's pushing him. I just hope they stay with these two young men. I really do, because this is the next evolution and growth for them, is that you give them the opportunity, Batesy, to go out and play against another world-class side for another week. I'm not adverse to switching them over for this game, though. I feel as though Cam's doing some of the things. It was really tidy from him today, but he got a lot of support in front of him. It got really good up front in terms of the guys coming off the bench, but he's shown he's back to what he can do. His passing was really accurate. For Cortez, this was a really tough one. They were niggly today on and around the breakdown. It was very, very messy. Didn't get a lot of protection from his own players and from the referee. There was a lot of guys in and around those rucks. But I'm actually happy either way, as long as it's those two guys, because I want their growth. I think it's a perfect position to play them, because we are where we are right now with this team.
Surely TJ Perenara doesn't get a look in.
Yeah, well, we don't know, but yeah, I'm exactly the same as Jeff. I don't really mind who starts. If it was me personally, I'd probably put Cam to start, because I reckon Cortez is awesome off the bench. I'd really do. But as long as it's those two, and whatever order it is, doesn't really bother me. And Cortez has taken a little bit of a heat, but as you said, Jeff, mate, there is a lot of stuff he doesn't get to control in that environment that is not his doing. And the worst thing they can do is get rid of him. He's got to be in that team somewhere. And I'll tell you what, he'll be awesome against the French. Just give him an opportunity, he'll be great.
Well, what about the Aussies against England at Twickenham this morning? It was a game for the ages. This is how international rugby should be, a ding-dong affair that goes to the 82nd minute.
Suaalii over the top. What a ball from Suaalii to right. To Wilson and Australia. Looking for Suaalii. He launches and sends a no-look ball away to right. It gets out for Jorgensen. Max Jorgensen. No, he didn't. Oh my goodness me. Oh, it's unbelievable. It's one of the greatest moments in Wallabies history. They are winners in their opening Grand Slam game.
Considering 12 months ago they hit rock bottom at the Rugby World Cup, was that one of the greatest performances in Wallabies history?
Oh, man, you got 2 World Cups to compete with there. but
Okay, so Shawnee was just
Sean might have got a bit carried away. But I get it. They haven't had a lot of success lately, so
that's why.
In recent times.
In recent times, okay.
Fair enough.
Oh man, I'm stoked. I'm stoked for them. I mean, Joe Schmidt is really starting to build a really good team around them. Especially that sort of experience. Not bad when you can bring someone from rugby league and start him in his first ever game without even playing a game of rugby and play the way he did.
So he is being compared, Bills, in his debut game where he was man of the match against England. He's being compared to the best of Sonny Bill Williams and Israel Folau, a 21-year-old that hasn't played rugby since schoolboy level, who comes in and performs like this for 82 minutes.
Freakish, isn't it? And it's stuff like that. He's not,
Freakish.
In the ear, it is pretty freakish, but his ability to actually, it's a different game. It's a totally different game. You tend to see guys come and they hesitate because they don't know whether they've got to go to a ruck. I mean, you look at that, defenders beaten 6, but they were quality. Set up a try. Man, he's good.
What I enjoy
I'm sure is he a Kiwi?
Yeah, he is. I think he is.
I'm pretty sure he is.
He's a cousin, I think, mate. Yeah. What I enjoy about him, I've heard him being interviewed when he first went over to rugby and during the week, and then even after the game. What he says is, everyone says, "Oh, and this is your first game." It's just footy. I'm good at footy. I can play footy. You know what I mean? So it doesn't faze him. I really enjoyed, he didn't make a big deal of it. Mate, I'm a good footy player. I can play footy. Just give me a rugby ball.
I saw someone say today that he has come in on debut and he's already the Wallabies' best player. You probably wouldn't agree with that.
He's certainly going to be impactful. It was great for him, a great debut. Everything you could possibly ask.
He makes people want to watch the game as well.
it's actually about giving their team a lift.
Yeah.
It's about when they look around and go, oh, we got someone who could be a superstar, who could change the game for us. Where it was like every game, they're making fundamental errors, and he's just a guy who's got something special. We need those type of players in rugby. It's a great start for him. Perfect game for him to play in, though, because England wanted to play. And that helped Australia. So all of a sudden, the ball was in play a bit more. There was turnovers. Australia started holding on to the ball. That's what Joe Schmidt really wants to do. He wants to play rugby. And that's the way the Wallabies have to play. Because if they kick the ball away, what have they still conceded? About 30-odd points? Because they're not a great defensive team. You know, so for them, they need to play. He's a great addition to that.
How do you think Ben Youngs will be feeling right now, Mills, who a few months ago on his podcast came out and said, why should the Lions even bother touring Australia next year? Do you think in another 8 months' time, where this team could be, Joe Schmidt could have the last laugh against the Lions?
He's building nicely, isn't he? I mean, they won't get too carried away. I mean, but this is huge because it's your first game on tour. When you look at the Grand Slam, you talk about guys lifting and the motivation and also the excitement within the camp, and they haven't had much success lately. But a lot of those guys have sort of talked about the Aussies. They'll be eating their words. But the other side of that too, and they've got to enjoy this week, but you've still got to back up now. You know, now there's an expectation that you've got to do that again.
Yeah, some big games to come. Wales, Scotland and Ireland to complete the Grand Slam. We're giving Joseph Soili'i so much credit, Batesy, but there were some big performances up front that allowed him to shine.
Yeah, they certainly were, and even in the last sort of play of the game when they went to the edge, it was. And what really impressed me was the work of their forwards. Jeff, you mentioned. You can see Joe Smith's fingerprints all over this Australian team. The way they don't, off kick-off, they don't get the ball and punt it. They try and play. They're into their carry. They want to play with the ball. But to be able to do that, you have to actually be going forward. And a couple of guys that were outstanding, like Angus Bell, their loose head prop, he was outstanding with ball in hand. Like, we'll see some clips of him here. But I haven't seen this from him. Like, I know he's fairly young and developing, but he was outstanding, like a little pinball machine. But he wasn't the only one. Harry Wilson, the skipper, he was good. And surprise, surprise, Rob Valentini, their blindside flanker, but he does it every time. But this fella here, I know we're talking up Soili'i, but let's give him a man of the match performance as well, because this guy was good.
Yeah, like a little pinball.
Yeah.
Well, all of it's important for Australia. All of it's important that they back up their performances. If you want to validate this win, you beat Wales next weekend.
You have to.
I mean, that's what's important for them, because they should beat Wales. They beat Wales in the middle of the year at home, but it wasn't easy. You know, they should be better now. They should be further on and where they're at. All their guys are pretty much fit and available. Everyone's there. Taniela Tupou was there. So all of a sudden, some of their impact players can develop what they're doing as well. But to make it count, as you said, you need to back it up. And for a guy like Angus Bell, when you've made that impact, okay, I'm now playing against a team that's probably not as strong. Can I do it again? If he does that, then all of a sudden, for Joe Schmidt, the conversations he's having and looking forward are a lot better.
Rob Valentini never has a bad game, does he? But he's got players around him now that are also stepping up to the mark.
Well, he wasn't there. Sometimes I feel sorry for him because they almost throw on the ball and go, you go run into that brick wall.
You do something.
Yeah, but now you've got the people we've mentioned that are putting little dents in the brick wall, and he's being able to flow off the back of that. But he's got, I reckon, that Taniela Tupou, I reckon that he looks a little bit short of a trot. I think
that's his whole career.
Yeah, he looks like
What are you saying?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the best of him just yet, to be fair. And I think you watch Joe Schmidt, you watch how he moulds him a little bit. I think he'll have a couple of words to him.
I think it needs to come off the bench. I mean, I think it's always been his best way for him to get involved in the game. If he's coming with 20, 25 in a test match, he's going to be valuable.
OK, plenty more still to come on the breakdown, including some bold predictions for the autumn series. Will it be another clean sweep for the Southern Hemisphere next week? These guys will be able to tell you. And Tour Tales is back. We head to the City of Love. Mills knows what I'm talking about. Paris, France.
We're staying in Japan, and we're staying at the Conrad Hilton, which is a 5-star hotel. Very fortunate. And at the time, there's a famous man by the name of Floyd Mayweather staying there. He had a big security crew around him, about 8 security guards, so you could never get close. But this one day I was in the elevator, and he happened to hop in the same elevator at the same time. He was only going up a couple floors. We're actually staying on the same one. when we were about to get out, I was going to ask him for a photo, but before I could do that, he started just running. We had a big long hallways. He was staying at the end, I was staying sort of middle of that big corridor, and he started running, and when I walked out and turned right, he was still running. So never got my chance to take the photo, but yeah, maybe he didn't want it. Nah.
Oh, that's so good. How would Anton square up, Millsy?
Oh no, you get doubt to. Anyone would against Mayweather, man. Far out. I'm surprised they didn't run after him. Hey?
Have you guys got any similar stories? Who have you bumped into when you've been on the road?
Well, first of all, I never stayed at five-star hotels. We always got billeted, man. Those changes, mate. They've changed these
You didn't
days,
play in
mate.
the 90s like Jeff Millsy. You were in the same hotels.
Yeah, they're pretty good hotels. But man, what a story. What a story to be able to bump into people like that, but not be able to take a photo, man.
Oh, man, we didn't have phones. When I was going on tour, I would have had to get the old wind-up out there.
And wait 14 days.
Exactly, wait 14 days. It's a Polaroid. It'll come out the front. I mean, I think Paris is one of the great cities to go to. It's, whether you're playing, whether you're on holiday, whatever it might be, it's a unique place to play at. And like I said, I never got the opportunity. 1995 was the second test. I got injured in the first test, so I was a dirty. So I had a great week. Basically, it was last week of the tour. It was just get out. So they didn't fly us home. They just said just stay out of the way. So we had a great. I was a food bill. That's 100% what I was. I was a food bill. But it was amazing watching, and it was Laurie Manger's last test. So it was it was a huge test for him, and the boys went out there and carved it up. They had a great day. But we were there Rugby World Cup last year. It's something special. It really, really is.
That opening game against the French at Stade de France last year, Mills, give us some insights into what it feels like to be there. They don't stop singing.
No, and that's the thing,
it's like
right?
a celebration.
It is, and you've got the band in the crowd, and the whole crowd is singing sort of songs even without this sort of band. But it's real sort of a festive feel that you actually sort of celebrate, and it's hostile. I mean, you're going in every moment that they win, regardless of whether it's a try or someone's collecting a high kick. You're hearing it. So it's a fantastic, and the fact that they play so late at night as well. I mean, that's another thing in itself, that you're there. You're right. You're in the city of love, and you can't even go out and experience.
So expand on that a little bit more. Is that okay? Just
it's the city of love, mate. Come on.
Do you even realise, when you're over there, that it's the city of love, Batesy?
I don't know, I'm not sure. Millsy obviously did to me. I've only been there twice. I didn't realise it was the city of love, to be honest. But yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, though. When we were there last year, I mean, when I was there with the All Blacks, you got straight to the front of the line to go up the Eiffel Tower. Last year, you looked at the line and thinking, there's no way I'm lining up in front of that, mate. Those privileges are gone, mate. They're gone.
Look, basically, I mean, this is something, we talked about it last weekend. This is something the All Blacks will have to deal with, right? Is you're coming into another hostile environment, and the fact that there is passion, there's, all of this energy in and around the stadium, you've got to embrace it, like you do every other stadium you go into. But this is unique.
It's quite cool, though, isn't it?
It's amazing.
It really is. 3 in a row, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. How cool is it? Even turning on the TV, and when they played Japan, they had the bloody the light show, the laser show going on, and the crowd's yelling out the names of the players as they're getting introduced on the big screen. The atmosphere's good. How cool.
That's exactly what it's going to be like at Stade de France. We will be live from 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. It is Sunday morning this week, not Saturday morning. Predictions? New Zealand versus France. Is anyone brave enough to pick the French, Batesy? You're partial to a wee opposition bet.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about this question too much, to be honest with you.
You should have known it was coming.
Yeah, I should have known it was coming for you, trying to dig the knife into me. I'm going to go the All Blacks, but this is, and I do believe, I thought that at the start of this 3-match series, I thought it would be 2-1. 2 victories, 1 loss, or the other way around. And
now you're thinking a 3-3.
Yeah, and it could be 3-3, and is that how the All Blacks have come? But this will be, I believe, this will be the spectacle we didn't quite get last week. I believe this will be a good open game of rugby.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, I'm weighing in on the All Blacks, obviously, but I think the style of play will actually suit us. I think I've got comfort that we can grind them down. Admittedly, I think that's the way we've got to beat them. I think we've got to grind them down first and then get to a stage where we know they want to open things up, and we can actually go to that as well. But, man, it's going to be a huge game. I think it'll be a tight one. I think they'll win by at least 3 or 6.
I think we find a way. I think we go to the next level. I think that all of a sudden I've seen some confidence in this group and some belief in the group, clear leadership. I'm seeing this All Black team and I'm knowing and believing that they're good enough to go and win now.
2 other big games, Ireland against Argentina. Ireland have to bounce back. England against the world champions South Africa. Is there a Northern Hemisphere upset here?
Ireland.
Ireland beat Argentina for you?
Yeah. Ireland can't back it up. Argentina can't back it up.
Yeah.
So it's Ireland.
Yeah, I think Ireland win that. And I'm hoping, because we all love the Irish people, and I'm hoping they're a bit hurt by what happened on the weekend and they get over the top of Argentina.
Thank you very much, Batesy. You are the only one that put your neck on the line. We'll have you back next week on The Breakdown. We'll see you guys next week too. Ka kite anō.
The World Cup opener is moments away. Challenge accepted. Now the crowd gets up, Roops. Moana, Barrett, works the cross kick to Mark Talia, sits up for him and he scores for New Zealand. What a start, New Zealand. France hot on attack, Jalabert, Mathieu, Jalabert gets them on their feet once again. New Zealand looking for another try, Talia has a double. It is a penalty against New Zealand. And Luka just going to dick it in behind. Melbourne, Chaminade chasing! Chaminade! That is the final whistle. And for the first time in history, New Zealand lose a pool game at a Rugby World Cup.